Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I have Mr. LeBrain Train, Mike Ladano, here with me. Mike. Hello.
How you doing, Tim?
Always a pleasure, and always a pleasure to talk about the man who has been referred to as simply the voice, Mr. Steve Perry. Mike and I have a very, very special journey-centric episode planned for upcoming weeks. But for now, I thought it would be cool to just simply talk about Steve Perry's solo output. Now, there's not a lot to talk about. So we're just going to go through what he has done as a solo artist on his own and kind of offer our 2 cents. Now, as with a lot of bands, when you have someone go solo, I'm a great proponent of the fact that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I think Steve Perry's best when he's singing, songs written or co-written with Neil Sean, Jonathan Kane, Greg Raleigh, what have you.
They had great chemistry.
He has done some stuff on his own that's pretty memorable. And I was thinking about this. I can't actually recall the first time that I heard a Journey song. I think it's the fact of that they've just been woven into the seams of pop culture for such a long time. I can't actually pinpoint hearing a Journey song. However, I can definitely remember the first time I heard this song, "Oh Sherry," which was Steve Perry's, not exactly his debut solo single,
right?
But debut solo single, just him. I remember distinctly hearing this in a car radio, and I was probably reading a comic, and it was just the end of grade 4 for me. So it was like June '84, and I liked the song right away. And obviously, first time hearing that voice, it's like, wow, yeah, this guy's a good singer. And I hadn't quite gotten into popular music at that point, but I distinctly remember the song. I remember seeing the video. The video's pretty silly. And this is just a US 45 sleeve. And it's got the same artwork as his debut album, Street Talk. And it's funny, I've had this 45 for a long time, Mike, and you'll appreciate this. So there's the A side right there. And only just yesterday when I dug this out did I realize this has a B side that's not on the album.
Yes, it does.
That. The B side is called "Don't Tell Me Why You're Leaving." Now it says it's from Street Talk, but it's not. It's strictly a B side, which to my knowledge is never made any CDs that I know of.
I believe it's on the Street Talk remastered edition, the Sony remastered edition. I believe.
May have to pick that up. I believe is another song on Street Talk. Here's the cassette.
Wow.
To Street Talk. Here is, wait for it, the 8-track, where they kind of zoomed in on the cover a little bit. This is a US Columbia House. I have seen a Canadian one. It's really weird. It's all pink. And let's see now. Here's the vinyl of Street Talk. And this is the inner sleeve. And this album, for a solo debut, it actually did quite well. I think it sold 2 or 3 million copies. "Oh Sherry" was a top 5 hit. I think it got to number 3. "Foolish Heart" was the second most successful song off. It peaked at 18. That might be my favorite Steve Perry vocal performance on "Foolish Heart." Like, to me, it's like, why does everybody think this guy's such a great singer? Listen to this song. Another song I really like on here that didn't have a video, but was a top 40 single, was "She's Mine." I really love the way he sings in that. He's a little bit more aggressive. And then the final song, "Strung Out," barely hit the top 40. Now, personally, other than that, there's a song here called "Captured by the Moment" I really like. Other than that, I don't listen to that much. This is just, as Mike mentioned, this is just a standard US CD of Street Talk. And that came out a year after Journey did Frontiers. And so then Raised on Radio came out in '86. At the conclusion of that tour, Steve Perry kind of faded out of sight and you didn't hear anything about it. However, with Journey's Greatest Hits coming out in 88 and going on to becoming one of the biggest selling greatest hits albums of all time, their music never really went away. So in the midst of grunge, 1994, it was a pleasant surprise. It was like hearing from an old friend when I heard this song, and right away I knew who it was. A song called You Better Wait. And it was like, wow, Steve Perry, he's back. And so I got really excited about this album, For the Love of Strange Medicine. Came out in 1994, again on Columbia. This is a Canadian CD. Now, is the whole album as good as that one song? No. Sadly, it's not. There are moments of brilliance on here. I didn't know this for many years. Another one of the singles on this album was the second track, Young Hearts Forever. And I didn't realize that that was meant as a tribute to the late Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy. And if you listen to the end of that song, Steve Perry goes into a little bit of Phil when he goes into this. She was an old flame of mine, and it's like. So after I read that, I listened to it. Okay, I hear that. That's cool. Didn't know that. So here's the. I don't have this in any other format. So Steve here. Full credits inside of it. Yeah, I think the album did all right. One thing I think is pretty cool is that You Better Wait peaked at number 29 in Billboard in the States, which is admirable given the time period. But it went all the way to number 1 here in Canada.
Holy crap.
With a number 1 song on the RPM chart. Yep. Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
I was working at the record store. That was my very first summer at the record store when For the Love of Strange Medicine came out. But I don't remember it doing all that well for us. I guess the single did.
I was working in radio then, and I remember we played it a fair bit. And the single mix of You Better Wait was interesting because it was totally different than the album version. It didn't have the a cappella intro. It just kind of started in with that marvelous chorus of Perry's, multi-track Perry's. And I kind of, in some strange way, I kind of like the single version. To me, it feels more compact, like a song. There's nothing wrong with the album version either. It's just that I was used to hearing the single version before I got the album. Like I said, unfortunately, it wasn't a good album all the way through. And to me, that kind of solidified to me, he needs those other guys to, keep him in check. Also, it needs to be said, it's not strictly rock. I mean, he likes to dip into his R&B and his Sam Cooke roots and everything. And that's great. But doesn't necessarily mean that, a rock fan is going to listen to the album all the way through and be enthralled with it. As great a vocalist as great the voice is, sometimes it doesn't always sustain the interest. And you already held up a version of this, but in 1998, Sony put this out, Greatest Hits. You have a jewel case version. So
yeah, I've never seen yours before there.
Well, I got this on one of the record store days a few years ago, I think in 2018. So this just simply says Greatest Hits, and most copies say Greatest Hits +5 unreleased. Yeah. This is a reissue that came out in 2006. And it's pretty cool. I mean, Steve Perry didn't have a lot of hits on his own. Like I said, he did have 4 top 40 singles off of that first solo album. You Better Wait was a hit. This has a lot of songs that would have been on an album that he was going to put out in 1988 called Against the Wall that Columbia Records said no to, which kind of doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I think there's 7 songs on here from what that album would have been. Yeah. But what's really cool about this reissue version is that it's got a bonus track, the 18th track, which is Don't Fight It
with Kenny Loggins.
Yeah, which was the very first time that Steve Perry was listed as a solo performer. So it's from Kenny Loggins' 1982 album, High Adventure. It's a fun rock song, and the two of them sound really good together. And I don't think there's a video for that song. But if you've never heard it, go back and check it out. It's kind of a fun, rocking little tune, and it's one of the handful of Kenny Loggins hits in the 80s that wasn't affiliated with a movie.
Right.
So this is the inner sleeve. He talks about the album that didn't get released, but there's another cool song on here called If You Need Me, Call Me.
Yes.
And this dates back to 1977 and a band that he was in called the Alien Project. And it was going to be, they were just about ready to be signed to Columbia Records where the bass player was unfortunately killed in a car accident. So Steve Perry, as the story goes, was very crestfallen and was basically going to give up the music business altogether, because at this point he was about 28, 29 years old. Not that that's old, but in the music industry, he would have been considered, oh yeah, he's too old to get started now. And he just so happened that song, If You Need Me, Call Me, that demo tape found its way to the hands of the late, great Herbie Herbert, who, against the wishes of Neil Schon and everyone else in the band, said, "This is your Journey singer." And the rest is history.
Yeah.
So it's a cool song.
It is a good song.
Yeah. And it kind of ties this what there is for greatest hits together. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So and Steve Perry famously has been like a hermit. He's been basically away from the music industry. The occasional appearance here and there, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, which was well overdue. And then out of nowhere in 2018, he reemerges.
Finally.
With a new album. Yeah, finally with a new album called Traces. And I did a review episode of this when it first came out. My favorite song on it is still the opening track, No Erasing. Yes. Classic melodic rock, as only Steve Perry can deliver. It I don't know if it could have been a Journey song, but I sure do like it. It was just like, again, it was like hearing from an old friend. And, his voice is weathered well. He's wisely recording in keys that suit, his advancing years, but he still sounds great. Yeah. Now, there's a very, very touching story behind the reason that he even emerged with a new album. And, people can look into that. So it came out. I've got the deluxe CD, which actually has 15 songs on it.
Worth it.
And not just 10. It's very much an album that you don't put it on in the middle of a party, but it's very much like a reflective album. If you're just kind of sitting back, chilling, it was just good to hear, that he's still making music, and he's still got the pipes. I have to say, I like the logo he came up with for this.
The whole artwork, the packaging, fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to that here in a bit when I show the vinyl. But this also came with a patch and a sticker.
Mine did not.
Oh, interesting. And I'm trying to remember. I think I may have ordered it directly from his website.
That might be why.
So maybe that's why. I'm not sure.
I got mine at the local Sunrise.
But yeah, here's the vinyl. Here's the vinyl version. And it's one of those things where there's a lot to take in here. And the more you look at it, the more you see. One of the things I know, well, here's a microphone that's on fire. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get the CD again because I don't have my vinyl's unopened. Shall remain that way. So we're not getting the glare. So right. Yeah, so there's a microphone. Now, one of the things I thought was interesting was this planet. I don't know if that's a reference to infinity. I'm not sure.
It looks like the Death Star.
Also, yes, it's definitely no moon.
Right.
There's a Fender Strat here. Neil Schon plays a Fender Strat on occasion. There's a battered drum set on the back. Steve Perry, I believe, was also a drummer.
Correct.
So that could reference a lot of things. And like I said, the more you look at it, the more you see in it. And like I said, not an album I throw on all that much, but it was just good to hear from him again. And so far, he also released alternate version of Traces, or
right.
And I didn't get that. I can't
stripped
remember what
or raw or something like that.
Yeah. And there was really nothing. It wasn't calling me to buy it. And right. The only other thing that I've got is something that I just received not too long ago. Is this? He did a Christmas album called The Season, and with Christmas music, kind of it's all about the classics for me, and I think a lot of people are like that. But this is well done. It's not. He doesn't. How can I say this? He doesn't oversing the songs, which a lot of singers do.
Yes.
He's not treating this as a rock singer singing traditional holiday songs. He's doing it very, very old school, and it, for the most part, it works. It's nice. It's a nice album to throw on. I think you can throw it on in just about any company. I think he's got some old family photos of his here.
Oh, that's nice.
Something very personal for him, and just a booklet that came with it. Like the artwork. The artwork's very cool, very classic looking, and there's an old photo of him next to a turkey, kind of out of the oven. So, who knows? I've heard talk that Steve is planning a Vegas residency, which makes perfect sense. That would be a way for him to return to live performance without the rigors of touring, because that's one of the things that kind of burned him out in Journey. I think that band possesses one of the most challenging back catalogs, to sing. What are your thoughts overall, like comparing Steve's solo catalog with what he's done in Journey? It's right. What are your thoughts overall?
I am basically in line with you on everything, and that's why I really like this CD. It has just enough of Street Talk, just enough of For the Love of Strange Medicine. It has the Against the Wall stuff. It has that really early track that you discussed earlier. And I like a lot of Traces too, but admittedly, that is a much more laid back, quieter sound than we are used to as Journey fans. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course, but that's where his heart is. He's just into laying back a bit more, and that is just fine. No Erasing is the track that really, I think, combines that laid back approach with sort of more of a Journey bombast in the best possible way. But unfortunately, few and far between on that album.
Yeah, that album really could have done with 2 or 3 more tracks.
Yeah,
that kind of had more of a pulse to them,
Right.
But from the beginning, he was an unlikely choice for a rock band, because he comes from that crooning school. He's not a rock belter, and that's one of the things that Neil and Greg Raleigh talked about. He said, "This guy's crooning. We want somebody to scream," but it worked. It worked so well. That combination of having that R&B voice up front with Neil's guitar and Steve Smith and the whole thing, and it just made for this melding that on paper probably didn't look like it would work. It probably didn't look like it would make any sense, and much less be successful, much less be one of the most successful rock bands ever. But it's interesting. He was not the first member to put out a solo album by any stretch. I mean, Neil did those 2 albums with Jan Hammer. Then he did the album with Sammy Hagar, the HSAS, which I just love. And in the Behind the Music, which I know Behind the Music is designed to be dramatic and hook you in. So there's got to be some sort of angle of, something's going wrong. But Herbie Herbert is quoted as saying, you keep scratching these itches talking to Neil, and he's going to want to do a solo album. And it'll probably be very commercial. It'll probably be successful, and you will rue the day that you started doing all these side projects. And sure enough, they were never quite the same after that, because he put the Street Talk album out, sold a couple million copies, had some hit singles, and all of a sudden he brings a lot of that feel back to Raised on Radio, including some of the same musicians, Larry London on drums, Bob Glaub on bass.
That's right.
Yeah, a lot of similarities. And all of a sudden, they became more of an R&B based band. Now, I like Raised on Radio quite a lot, but it's a different album. It's not the same as Escape or Frontiers. And they had such a proven formula, and he deviated from it. And even down to the album artwork and the title. Herbie wanted that album to be called Freedom, continuing that one word, and Steve Perry's like, not going to happen. So it's interesting. You get this interesting bunch of personalities, and clashes are bound to happen. I just recently bought, we can talk about this in more depth later, but I recently found a used copy of Jonathan Kane's book, and he talks a lot about that. As a matter of fact, he references some of the lyrics on Street Talk and the song Running Alone. And he wonders if then Steve wasn't thinking, I can do this myself. Obviously, history has proven that no, you're a bigger star in context of the band than you are on your own. But what he's put out there's some quality stuff there, and it's worth revisiting. And if you're a diehard Journey fan and you've listened to the albums, ad nauseum over and over again, and have never checked out Steve Perry stuff, I would say, as Mike said, at least check out that greatest hits and
For sure.
Give it a shot. I mean, most people know Oh Sherry. I mean, that's a radio staple. As a matter of fact, I've read that in Australia, because Journey was a band that really very rarely toured outside North America.
True.
So they're not as big worldwide as we would think that they are. In Australia, that Oh Sherry is by far better known than any single Journey song. It's a huge hit down there. So there you go.
That's funny.
So that's just a little look at the man's solo work. So everybody out there, is there anything else that should be sought out? Anything out there that's, Steve Perry Journey fans should be looking for? What do you think? So Mike, as always, thank you for sitting in with me. It's always a pleasure to talk about this stuff. Looking forward to the Journey episode. We're going to work up more details as that becomes available. Really hoping they get a new album out this year. And, who knows? Maybe new music from Steve Perry. You just don't know. So thanks, everybody, for watching this episode of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.